get a map up there. So I'm always reminded when Lee mentions the Baptist Church camp up north of the Mendenhalls about my week going there. I was about 9 years old. I've told this story before, but you guys don't remember it because, well, that was back in the time that we had the lawn darts with the spike at the end. Yeah, well, I don't know what lawn darts anyway. But we were playing that game. I don't know who I was playing with, but I was there, and I didn't throw it. But one of the kids it was coming to him, and instead of getting out of the way, he went like that, and it stuck under his arm. We haven't seen that kid since. Don't know what happened to him. And then, also, it was that same week, let's see, talking about Hillary missing Owen. So I saw my mom on Monday when we went. She came up on Tuesday evening to check on me. Wednesday, it was our church's turn to work the kitchen, so she was there working the kitchen. Thursday, she came to the services to check on me, and then I saw her when I got home Friday. So I don't know that my mom remembers that, but I do. I did think it was odd, but nevertheless. Yeah, they took him away, and we never saw him again. I don't know where he was from or, yeah, but it is sad, I guess, in a way that those are the only two things I remember from that, other than I don't think we showered all week.
Oh,
anyway.
They make them shower now.
Maybe we did. I don't remember. Anyway. Oh, how do I sorry, I'm delaying and I'm the one delayed here. That one?
Should be.
Maybe.
Yep.
Am I there? Okay.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Well, all I've seen so far are kickballs and basketballs,
And there's some footballs.
so no darts.
All right, everybody can get a handout for tonight, session 18. We've been doing this for a year and a half. Yeah. Pray for Tammy and her mom. They're going to Indianapolis tomorrow for a doctor's appointment for Nancy. And just pray for them. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. But anyway, just pray for them. So I did something this time I haven't done in the past. I placed the very first paragraph here is what we covered in the last lesson because we needed to be reminded of that in detail for the lesson tonight going forward. So I placed that there. I'm not really necessarily going to read it all. I want to put it there for just a reference. So last month, if you remember, Eli, the high priest, he died when he heard that the Ark of the Covenant had been taken by the Philistines. In that battle where the ark was taken, his two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, they died. One of Eli's daughter-in-laws gave birth, named the baby Ichabod, which means the glory is departed, and she died. And it was a very dark day in this event for Israel. Not only did their high priest die, not only did the successors to the high priest die, which honestly, knowing how evil Phinehas and Hophni were, it was probably a good thing that they died anyway. But I'm going to dwell on that. But understand that now the Ark of the Covenant, the picture of Israel, of the presence of God, is now in the hands of the Philistines. And essentially that is what that first paragraph there is referring to. The Ark of the Covenant going to the Philistines after Israel has lost a battle and lost some 30,000 men in that battle. So after the battle, the Philistines take the ark back to Ashdod, which is a country still, or a city still today. Oh, I didn't use my, did I turn that on, but it didn't pair. Now, it worked earlier. Yeah, technology. It ain't going to work now, is it? Come on. Well, anyway, you see Ashdod there. No? I'm zooming in on it. That's the entire city of Ashdod. Where is that? How come the mouse isn't working when I need it to? Yeah. Oh boy.
Hold on.
Hold on. I mean, it connected right up before church.
I don't know what to tell you.
Connection unsuccessful.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on. Connect.
I don't know.
Sorry about that. We may not get out till 7:30 now. I mean, I literally, first thing I did when I got here this evening is make sure that,
Yeah, I know, I saw you.
yeah. Well, I was
The
telling,
battery died on it.
I think it's the New Hebron Technology Group.
yes.
That's part of it.
Well, kind of losing my mojo.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we want to see Ashdod.
I don't know what to tell you.
I'm sorry, Jim, I said it.
Yeah.
It's not. I give up.
It worked. It worked half hour ago. Anyway. Now, I will say though, see Gaza there? Can you read the word Gaza? Okay. Anyway, that's the Gaza Strip. You've heard of the Gaza Strip in news and all that. That was the Philistines' main area was in Gaza, and they had Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. Those are the 5 cities of. We'll talk about that later, but I'm just kind of giving you a reference as to where Ashdod is. That's where they took the Ark of the Covenant back, was to Ashdod. Okay, and they placed it, as we look here at the second paragraph, year from creation 2888. They placed it in the temple of Dagon, their god. And it says that twice Dagon was found lying prostrate and broken before the ark on the ground. So they had taken the ark, they had placed it in their temple, and 2 different times their god had fallen off his pedestal and was broken in front of the Ark of the Covenant. Some of the inhabitants of Ashdod also died of a plague, and many were stricken with tumors. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 5. I'm going to do some reading today. I had a lot more reading to do, but I kind of cut it back just because there was going to be so much. But I want us to understand this Ark of the Covenant is in the hands of the Philistines, Israel's archenemy. And they have placed it in their prized temple to Dagon here. And now these things are happening to them because, essentially, they have a curse on them because they have the Ark of the Covenant, which they shouldn't have. And we'll read about this, and there's going to be a lot more happening with this in this lesson. So 1 Samuel chapter 5, beginning in verse 1. And the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod. When the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. And when they of Ashdod rose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. Some god this is, And again, it's made of stone or metal of some type. And he falls but can't get himself up. But this is what they worship. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, so this is the second day, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. I'm glad my God doesn't have a stump. And he doesn't fall down before other gods. Therefore, neither the priests of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod unto this day. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. Now, some commentators believe this word emerods was hemorrhoids. I believe that to be true because it does say that they were on their private parts. I'm not going to really get into that any more than that, but just understand that perhaps these were hemorrhoids that had been plagued these people of Ashdod. And all because they have this Ark of the Covenant in their possession. Verse 7, and when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us and upon Dagon our God. They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines to them, and I said, what shall we do with the ark of God, the God of Israel? And they answered, let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about unto Gath. They carry the ark of the God of Israel about thither. So let's send it from Ashdod and let's send it over to Gath. Let's send it to the next town. Now, what do you think the people in Gath would want to do? Get them out away from us. But that's another town. Now, it is to the east of the Gaza Strip, but since my pointer don't work, you'll have to just believe me that Gath is a city to the east of the Gaza Strip and Ashdod. And that's where Goliath is from. If you remember Goliath, he was from Gath. Verse 9, and it was so that after they had carried it about, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction, and he smote them into the city, both small and great, and they had emerods in their secret parts. Therefore they sent the ark of God to Ekron. They sent it to the third city. And it came to pass, as the ark came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, they have brought about the ark of God to Israel to us, to slay us and our people. So keep in mind, they are sending this to their own cities. You know, they went to Ashdod, and the people were plagued. They sent it to Gath, the people were plagued. So now they're sending it to Ekron, and they're like, we don't want it. Verse 11, so they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, send away the ark of the God of Israel, and let it go again to his own place, that it slay us not and our people, for there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city, and the hand of God was very heavy there. And the men that died were smitten with emerods, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. So they've got a problem on their hands. They've got this ark of God that they thought was going to be a big victory cry, and ends up in the three cities that it goes to, it causes mayhem and destruction. So now let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 6. Because of the plagues, the Philistines send the ark back to Israel. So we're going to formulate a plan here. We're going to send it back. We don't want it. We're going to send it back. 1 Samuel chapter 6, verse 1. And the ark of the Lord was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. So 7 months from the time that Eli died, and Hophni and Phinehas died, and Ichabod was born. All of that has been 7 months. And that was very soon after Samson had destroyed one of the temples of Dagon. Remember when Samson, when he died, he destroyed one of the temples of Dagon. And it was soon after that the battle took place that Israel lost the ark. Just kind of giving us a reference here. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, what shall we do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us therewith, we shall send it to his place. And they said, if ye send away the ark of God of Israel, send it not empty, but in any wise return him a trespass offering, then ye shall be healed, and it shall be known unto you why his hand was not removed from you. Then said they, what shall be the trespass offering which we shall return to him? And they answered, 5 golden emerods and 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines, for one plague was on you all and on your lords. So they decide that we're going to send an offering back. So they fashion out of probably gold, but I don't know, something that looks like these tumors that they have. And then also these mice, because we read later that God sent mice throughout all the cities of the Philistines. And so they're thinking if we send five emblems of the tumors and 5 mice, that's going to be a peace offering to God. That's what the plan is here. And they're going to put it in a coffer or a separate wagon attached to the cart that they're going to send away here. We'll see that in a minute. Verse 5, wherefore ye shall make images of your emerods and images of the mice that mar the land, and ye shall give glory unto God of Israel. Understand that even in this defeat of Israel, God's getting the glory. Peradventure, he will lighten his hand off of you and off your gods and from off your land. Wherefore then do ye harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts? Now again, that had been some 400 years prior. Maybe not quite that long, but you get the idea. But that is still a legend, not only in Israel, but also to Israel's enemies. You remember what God did to the Egyptians way back when? And this is what the priests of Dagon are telling the people. You remember, don't harden yourselves against God like the Egyptians did, because we're going to get all these plagues. So understand that, and you understand too, back when we studied them crossing into the Red Sea, the people of Jericho knew what God had been doing for Israel in the 40 years they were wandering in the wilderness. So this legend and these stories of what God was doing for his people were known even among the heathens. And here we see here the Philistines were fully aware of what had happened to the Egyptians, because they had turned against Israel and the God of Israel some, like I said, 400 some years ago. Verse 7, now therefore make a new cart and take 2 milk kine on which there hath come no yoke, and tie the kine to the cart and bring the calves home from them. Now, I'm not an expert on cattle, but what I've understood is these are cows that are nursing. They have calves that are nursing, and they're going to take the calves away from these cows. These cows have never had a yoke put on them. They're going to put a yoke on them, and they're just going to let them go wherever they go. Now, from what I understand, being a milk cow that has a nursing calf, they typically wouldn't go anywhere. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me, but that's what I've kind of gathered here. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to send these brand new cows that's never had a yoke on them, and we're going to put the cart on, and they're going to see where they go. Verse 8. And take the ark of the Lord and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold which ye return him for a trespass offering in a coffer by the side thereof, and send it away, that it may go. And see if it goeth up by the way of his own coast to Bethshemesh. Then he hath done us this great evil. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that smote us, and it was a chance that happened to us. Guess where these cows are going to take this ark to? Bethshemesh, which is a city, which I would point out if I had my pointer. But it is about halfway between Jerusalem and Ashdod. Bethshemesh is where the ark was taken from some 7 months prior. But their plan is to make this cart, put it on these two cows, and hopefully it goes back to Bethshemesh. If it goes back there, then we know this was God that has done this to us. And if it goes anywhere else, we know that it was just by chance that we had the mice and the hemorrhoids and all the other things that's happened to us. This is the way the world thinks. Verse 10. Where am I going to? Verse 16. Oh, I got more to read. Verse 10. And the men did so, and took till milk kine, and tied them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. And they laid the ark of God, of the Lord, upon the cart, and the coffer with the mice of gold, and the images of their emerods. And the kine took the straight way to the way of Bethshemesh, and went along the highway, lowing as they went, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And the lords of the Philistines went after them unto the border of Bethshemesh. So they're following along to see where these cows are going to go. And they of Bethshemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the valley. And they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark and rejoiced to see it. Can you imagine the shock and awe and joy and maybe the puzzlement? You're out there reaping your fields, and you look up, and here comes the ark of God being pulled by two cows down the highway. Not in the woods, not on a side, but just down the highway. And the cart came into the field of Joshua, a Bethshemite, and stood there. So they just came and they stopped. And there was a great stone, and they clave the wood of the ark, and offered the kine a burnt offering unto the Lord. And the Levites took down the ark of the Lord, and the coffer that was with it, wherein the jewels of gold were, and put them on the great stone. And the men of Bethshemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrifices the same day unto the Lord. And when the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen it, they returned unto Ekron that same day. Imagine the joy of seeing this being returned. Now that does lead to a revival in Israel, which we'll talk about later. Let's go now to chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. And the men of Kirjath-jearim came and fetched up the ark of the Lord, and brought it unto the house of Abinadab in the hill, and sanctified Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. And it came to pass, while the ark abode in Kirjath-jearim, that the time was long, for it was 20 years, and all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. So it sets in Abinadab's house for some 20 years. Now, I can't imagine having the Ark of the Covenant in my house for a day, let alone 20 years. Does he put it in the closet? Does he leave it in the living room? Does he cover it with I don't know what he does with it. But I would find it rather intimidating to have the Ark of the Covenant in my house for 20 years. For 20 years. All right, that's where we're going to leave off with that. We jump ahead now some 20 years. The year of creation, 2903 BC 1102. The 7th Jubilee is celebrated. Now, I was going to read all about the Jubilee years, but I decided I wanted my crowd to stay, so I'm going to just give you the references. The sabbatical year after 7 cycles of 7 years, or 49 years. So, roughly, this is 350 years since the time of Joshua. So since the time of Joshua and Israel taking the land, 350 some years have passed. okay? And now it's this 7th Jubilee. The 50th year was to be a time of celebration and rejoicing for the Israelites. The year of the Jubilee involved a year of release from indebtedness. The year before would have been a great time to have taken out a mortgage. It involved the release of indebtedness and all types of bondage. So all slaves were freed, all servants were freed, all debts were forgiven, all prisoners and captives were set free, all slaves released, all debts forgiven, property was returned to its original owners. In addition, all labor was to cease for 1 year, and those bound by labor contracts were released from them. Understand, this was a command of God, and I list it there in Leviticus chapter 25. You are not to work the fields for 1 whole year. They were to have been storing up for themselves to get them through that whole year, because God commanded the Israelites to not tend the fields for this year of this Jubilee. Now, part of the problem and part of what led to the Israelites being taken captive by Babylon was that they didn't necessarily always celebrate these years, and they skipped 10 Jubilee years, and so they were captive 70 years to repay the years of Jubilee that they missed, that they didn't observe. But this was a command of God. One of the benefits of the Jubilee was that the land and the people were to be able to rest. The Jubilee presents a beautiful picture of the New Testament themes of redemption and forgiveness. So again, Leviticus 25 is where you can read about most of that. But again, them not keeping this celebration of the Jubilee led to them being captive in Babylon for 70 years. Okay? Everybody okay so far? I kind of took off and didn't stop. All right. Oh, we're doing okay on time. All right. Now, year from creation, 2908. For 20 years, which we talked about in 1 Samuel chapter 7, for 20 years after the ark had came to Kirjath Jearim, the Israelites were oppressed by the Philistines. So the Philistines didn't go away. They didn't leave Israel alone. They were still a thorn in their side. Nevertheless, the Israelites did have the ark of God. Now again, the Israelites were guilty of using that as a good luck charm or a lucky rabbit's foot. But there's coming a time here, again, it's been 20 years, and they're going to have a revival that I mentioned. I misspoke in saying that it was soon after the return, but it took them 20 years to have this revival we're going to talk about. For 20 years after the ark had come to Kirjath Jearim, the Israelites were oppressed by the Philistines. Finally, having been persuaded by Samuel, they returned to the Lord after abandoning all of their idols. They came together in Mizpah, which I would show you on the map if my pointer worked, where they were said to have drawn water, that is, to have drawn tears from the bottom of their hearts. I'm going to read about this in a minute. And to have poured them out before the Lord. So let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 7, verses 3 through 6. This is Samuel talking to Israel here. This is, again, 20 years after the ark has been returned, sitting in Abinadab's house. 1 Samuel 7, 3. And Samuel spake unto all the house of Israel, saying, If you do return unto the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the strange gods and an Asheroth from among you, and prepare your hearts unto the Lord to serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. And the children of Israel did put away Balaam and Ashtaroth and served the Lord only. Isn't it sad it took them 20 years? And Samuel said, Gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray for you unto the Lord. And they gathered together in Mizpah and drew water and poured it out before the Lord and fasted upon that day and said, There, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the children of Israel at Mizpah. So this drawing of water is a picture of them crying out with tears because they had turned from God. After their repentance, God immediately delivered the people of the Israelites from the invasion of the Philistines. Let's look at verse 10 through 13. And as Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. So again, they're all gathered there. They're having repentance toward God for turning their backs to them. And as they're having this revival, so to speak, the Philistines are there to attack. But the Lord thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines and discomfited them, and they were smitten before Israel. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines and smote them until they came to Beth-kar, which I would show you on the map if my pointer worked. Then Samuel took a stone and set it between Mizpah and Shin and called the name of it Ebenezer, saying, Hitherto hath the Lord helped us. That's where we get the term, I raised my Ebenezer. All right? So the Philistines were subdued, and they came no more into the coast of Israel, and the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. So the Lord defeated these armies of the Philistines after Israel had had this revival and repentance to God, and they put away the false gods of the Philistines. Keep in mind, they were worshiping the same gods that the Philistines were worshiping, which was a slap in the face to God. But once they turned back to God, they had this revival, the Lord destroyed the Philistines, or at least destroyed them in that battle. They didn't kill them all. Isn't it amazing how that works when you turn to the Lord and you put away your sin and what's keeping you from serving the Lord? Reading the chapter or the paragraph here. God sent a terrible thunder that terrified the Philistines. They abandoned all the cities of Israel which they had formerly held. No more did they come to invade their borders, because they saw that the hand of the Lord was against them all the days of Samuel, until Saul became king. Now, things are going to change after Saul becomes king. We haven't got there. We're not going to cover that in this lesson, but understand there's this time of revival and renewal to God, but then they want a king. We'll talk more about that later. However, after Saul became king, they returned again and were oppressed they oppressed Israel. When Samuel was old, he appointed his 2 sons to be judges over Israel at Beersheba. They did not serve the Lord like their father, but perverted the judgment for rewards and bribes. Let's read about Samuel's sons in 1 Samuel chapter 8. You know, we didn't talk about this so much tonight, but we did last month, how the high priest Eli's sons were evil. And here we see Samuel, who was probably the most godly man that we've read about so far, and his 2 sons are evil. That's kind of a sad play, but that's what we're going to read here in 1 Samuel 8, verse 1. And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted judgment. That's sad. Samuel did not retire completely, because from the passage of 1 Samuel chapter 7, verses 15 through 17, it appears that Samuel did continue judging the people by himself to his dying day. Let's look at 1 Samuel 7:15. 1 Samuel 7:15. And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. And he went from year to year in a circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpah, and judged Israel in all those places. And his return was to Ramah, for there was his house, and there he judged Israel, and there he built an altar unto the Lord. So Samuel continued to be a judge to Israel, even after appointing his 2 sons to take over from him. Now understand that Samuel was not a high priest. He was not of the lineage to be a high priest, but he was a judge and served well as such as a judge in Israel. Now at the bottom I did list the 5 cities that were known to be the city of the Philistines: Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. Those are all cities still today. Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ashdod are in that Gaza Strip that you perhaps hear about occasionally on the news. Ashdod is north of the Gaza Strip some, but it's right along the Mediterranean coast in southern Israel. Ekron and Gath do have new names. I'm not going to try to pronounce them because you think I'm butchering Ashkelon and Ashdod. Wait till I get to answer these others. So anyway, comments or questions? That went a little quicker than I thought. But we see here Israel falls into sin, is oppressed by the Philistines. We then seen how Israel turned to the Lord, and God miraculously, soon after that, delivered them into the Philistines out of their hands. And as we're going to I haven't looked ahead yet, but I think we're going to talk about how Israel later wants a king like all of the other nations, and how that's going to be a pretty bad idea for Israel, because God is going to give them what they want, and it's not necessarily what God wants for them to have. But more on that when we meet next month. Yes, Hillary. I don't know. I probably should have, if I'd have been a good teacher, I may have looked that up, but I don't know. There's got to be a reason, but what it is up here in front of everybody, I don't know.
Because he was the first one on the list.
Well, yeah, AB, that was his, as they went down the list. Yeah, Aaron was not home. That was a good one. That was a good one. Anyone else? Yeah. You ain't gonna believe what I got back here. Come here. I mean, I don't know what you would do with it. I mean, and it's not like, I mean, I assume, my guess is, and I don't know this, when they took it to his house, I assume they had figured it was just going to be there for a week or two. Perhaps, and I'm speculating completely here, perhaps they thought that now that we have the ark, we can build a place for it, which it did end up in Shiloh, and they did have a place for it there while David was king. But then they continued to serve the gods of the Philistines, and so they just kind of lost interest. We lose interest in things within a couple weeks, so I can't imagine that the Israelites aren't any different than we are. So, anyone got anything else? All right, well, we'll move along for next month, so we'll stand and we'll be dismissed. Dale, why don't you dismiss us tonight?